Okay, we're going to go ahead and start. And so, hi, everybody. We're on week 4 of this awesome quarantine. And I hope everybody's well and staying well. It's good to see a lot of faces that I haven't seen in a while, especially Deep. This is very exciting. But we have 2 speakers tonight. One short and one and then Fred, but I'm going to have Sam Stevens start us off, and I wanted him to give an update of what Clean the World Foundation is doing in the midst of the coronavirus, and then Fred's going to speak to us on a couple of things. We call him Santa for obviously reasons because he's the epic beard, and he's also plays Santa at Christmas. Well, he had in the past, and he did me a huge solid this past Christmas, and he went to see a friend of mine who has a special needs baby so they could get pictures with Santa. So he has my heart, and I love him to death, and I'm so glad that he's with us as well. But I'm going to go ahead. Sam, can you just tell us what you've been doing for the past couple of weeks?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Amber. Hey, everybody. Great to be with you all again. So Clean the World Foundation, we focus on getting water, sanitation, and hygiene to vulnerable, at-risk populations around the world. And so coronavirus has been quite a new world for us. The need for hygiene supplies, soap and hand washing and things like that are critical now, because hand washing with soap is, as you all know, one of the most effective ways to prevent the spread of the virus. So we're in the process of responding in some big ways. We're distributing about 3 million bars of soap across 200 communities here in the United States, from Seattle to New York to Miami to 197 other communities in between. So that's enough to serve about 1.5 million Americans. These are folks who are homeless or low income and unable to get access to soap otherwise. So distributing in food pantries, emergency medical shelters, homeless shelters, street outreach programs, things like that. We're also doing another 3 million bars of soap over the next 60 days to refugee camps and vulnerable populations living in extreme poverty who are most at risk of the spread of coronavirus. So refugees fleeing Venezuela and Colombia, the Rohingya refugee camps in Bangladesh, the Yemen civil war, the Syria civil war, Somali and Kenya refugee camps, places like that. So about 6 million bars of soap and emergency hygiene kits over the next 6 weeks or so, serving about 4 million people around the world. So grateful for the support of Rotary, and thank you all for your thoughts and prayers.
Thank you, Sam. I appreciate you updating us. You've been on my mind. I wanted to get an update the last time we met, but then we had so many people speaking, which I'm grateful for, and I didn't quite get to you. So are you in DC now?
I am. Yep. I'm at home. This is the longest I've been home in probably 20 years, it feels like, but enjoying things at home and running things from here, overseeing our teams around the world.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, Fred, I'm going to let you have the floor and take over. And if you need to share your screen, there is a share screen button in the middle of if you scroll over, and it's bright green. And so it's all yours now.
All right. Well, with all of the things going on, let's see if I can figure out which screen I want here. Let's try sharing that one. Oh, come on. So the idea is, let's see if I can move this up a little bit. And are y'all seeing my screen now? Of course not.
Nope.
All right, let's see if I can do it this way. Let's go back. All right. I want to share. Okay.
Are you on your laptop?
Of course.
So you should just, if you just click on that, you should be able to pop it up, your screen, if you just click the green folder.
For some reason it's gone in here and asked me about preferences. Let me see if I don't want to record. I just want to share the screen. I'm still seeing you. Share. Let me see if it'll do that.
There you go. There you go.
Now, the crazy thing is I don't understand where I am. All right. So let's see if I can do this.
There you go. Look at you.
Oh, yeah. Well, when you just are, a squirrel can, a blind squirrel can find the nut accidentally randomly, okay?
Well, the floor is
I have
yours.
no
Take
idea.
over.
I have no idea which button I hit that finally started working.
You did great.
All right. Well, what I am intending to do is share a personal experience, and there are several of you, in fact, there are probably a lot of you who have experience with this and have your own perspective of how this process works of Rotary grants, and whether it's international or district. And I'm going to just use my example as one to say, you know, sometimes we get lucky, and sometimes, and we just got to keep networking with Rotary to look for ways to get involved. So we'll begin the process and by taking a step. So last year at the district conference, as a matter of fact, so just barely over a year ago, I met Greg Wilkerson from the outreach program, who is involved with food packaging for various organizations. And it's interesting that it's not the only group that does this. And this happened to be my first contact. And so off I went, kind of thing. And about a day later, we had a meeting of the Area 8 president-elects to kind of share thoughts about projects and ideas, and trying to figure out what we wanted to do next. And so all of a sudden, it just gave me a chance to say, okay, I met Greg yesterday, and all of a sudden I've got an idea for today, and we'll see where that goes. And that's about all that could happen out of a 15-minute meeting in the hallway at district conference. But at PETS, we learned that District Governor-elect Tim Carter had an interest in the feeding program as well. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, this concept of serendipity, this concept of connectedness that becomes so unpredictable that you just never know when things like this will happen. But if you don't move on it, it's your own stupid fault. So do something about it, kind of thing. And also during that same time, we were given some information about the timeline for applying for district grants. And it was like, okay, I got plenty of time to do this along the way. And all I have to do is figure out how to make some connections with people and organizations and all the other unknowns that'll come along the way. In the district grant support process, an individual club, and I think probably too many of you already know this, but bear with me. You can get $4,000 from the district as a matching grant if you have $4,000 or more that your club is putting up. And if you can get 2 clubs involved, you can request a matching grant up to $6,000, and you're seeing that 3 clubs gives you even more of a cap there for district support that adds to what the clubs are doing, and 4 becomes even more, and 4 and that $12,000 is the highest amount. And I'm putting in that concept of up to these values because the reality is that the district has a finite pool of money, and I think last year they ran into a situation where they weren't able to match everybody's request, but at the same time they made a real effort to get back to the individual clubs and say, what can we do in terms of supporting you in some modified kinds of ways. So the reality is, if you start planning of that, I've got to have that $4,000, for example, as a one club project, then you aren't guaranteed that, but you got to go for it. So when I started working on this thing, by the end of April, I had 2 other clubs that had volunteered to be involved with the program that we're calling Feeding Our Community, so that we had a pocket of about $5,000 that we could use as club money, and then that would allow us to then be applying for up to $9,000 for district support. Well, no, sorry, up to $5,000, because it would only match what we had from club support. And so the district grant application was due May 31st. Unfortunately, I was leaving a couple days before that, going out of the country. And so I've submitted about a week earlier, and for some reason in the process, my application didn't go through. And it was one of those things where, well, I found out the result of technology can be its own problem. But I also found that, hey, wait a minute, that means that I can apply next year and maybe do more. We'll see how that all plays out as we cycle through a new calendar and request. But by the end of June, I had a 3rd club join us, and so we had a pocket of right at $8,000, which allowed us to get to buy 30,000 meals to package. And then in some ways that probably was a good thing to do, because any larger than that would mean a lot more people to get involved with things. So we then were looking at supporting 2 elementary school backpack programs, which I have a feeling most of you know means that the organization bags meals for elementary students who have typically a special need or Title I kinds of conditions at home, of not being able to afford meals at school. And so this becomes a way to supplement food over the weekend for the child. We also had a community food bank that I was aware of that also has an after-school program. And the result was that we had a potential impact of about 500 elementary age and younger children that would be able to take advantage of our food packaging program. When we say 30,000 meals, you got to recognize, though, that each package contains 6 meals. And so as a result, all of a sudden, the number of 30,000 doesn't really become an easy way to translate into a simple one-to-one kind of thing. But that did mean we had 5,000 packages to deal with. And that the reality is that these backpack programs, often these families are going to share that package of food that comes home on the weekends, just because everybody has a need in the family, as opposed to just that elementary age child. So the 6 meals all of a sudden became a reasonable way for a family to think in terms of being fed at least 1 meal, and I take some comfort in that. The trying to find a place to do the packaging, since I belong to a church on Grandin Road, that became the easiest way for me to locate some options. And the fact that I'd worked at a school on Grandin Road said that I had a pretty good idea of some of the options of places that might be available. August 27th turned out to be a date that worked for me, because I felt like it would be great to try to get the packaging done before school starts, and that the 3 organizations that we were trying to support then had the flexibility of using that whatever part of the year that they wanted to use. And as also, it was also the Grandin Road Day of Service, in which there were 6 Grandin Road churches there that were all trying to coordinate, let's get together and do some things on our road and in our neighborhood, and let's have a chance to work together and churches and be involved with all of that. So it just was, again, there's the serendipity part kind of coming into play of an alignment of the stars from the standpoint of 2 or 3 different things that are all kind of aligning together and fitting hand in glove to make some very good things happen. So as we looked at the participants, basically the Area 8 Rotary members, families, and friends made up about 50% of our group that was going to be involved. And in our club, the Rotary Club of Roanoke Valley, we were missing 1 member, which was a phenomenal event, considering you can't predict everybody's calendar is going to fit together on an August when people are still traveling and everything else. The 3 supported organizations provided another 25% of the people to be involved with the packing, and then members of the 6 churches also provided another 25%. So we were very fortunate in terms of just being able to get some things that all came together in ways that I would never have predicted, that things worked out as well as they did. If you've never been involved in one of these things, this is a typical team of 10 people. You see the yellow funnel there, and you will see bins of food like rice and beans and things of that nature that are poured into a plastic bag. And typically there's a bag of supplement spices and things of that nature, and protein that are also thrown into the package. And then it goes to the middle table, and you see that white bin that's got some bags in it. And to the left of that bin are 2 people that are weighing the bags. And if it's a little light, then they send the bag back to the funnel group and to get everything back at the right level. Or if you had to, you take out a little bit, and you'll see the woman in pink there. She actually has a little bin of just to be able to add a few things to bring the weight up without having to send it back to the first team. So it then moves down the line, and you see the red things there, and that's the sealer. So you try to get all the air out of the bag and everything that way, and then seal it, and then it goes to that white area, that grid, so that you get 2 stacks. So there's basically 36 bags, and then they all get put into the box down at the end. And then the box is closed up and moved out of the way to get on to the next group of packaging. So the day before, this is the group of people that came together to try to get things set up. And you got to recognize that if you're going to do 5,000 bags of food that are in the 12-ounce per bag size, that we're all of a sudden we're talking about ballpark 3,000 pounds of ingredients along the way. So there's a lot of weight involved in all of that. And fortunately, this was the team that helped set up, get all the boxes of bulk food and protein and everything that way, and some of the boxes assembled, and you can see all the ingredients there, or the getting ready to put the ingredients out the next morning, and the tape there to be able to close up the packages and get them out of the way. So, and let's see, Greg is the third one from the left, who was very kind. Since this is my first time in being involved with something like this, it was like, oh, yeah, we can do this. And we can do it in 2 hours, and we can do anything. I didn't know what I was talking about, but that's part of it. You just step off, take a step and pray. So this is the way we left the room that day, on Friday afternoon, all ready for the next day's chaos. And Janet, you'll see yourself there helping getting people registered along the way. And Amber, I think you should recognize somebody there, right? And so people came in, and this we did something that they don't recommend. We ended up doing 2 different kinds of meals, feeling that the macaroni and trying to remember what else was, there was a Spanish rice package that we did, and then there was a macaroni a pasta that we did, so that there was a little bit of variety there. So this is basically approximately 75 people, because there are a few more on the other side of things, that have all got to be told how to get organized and distributed around the room. If you look at a few people against the wall, you'll see some of us that had to have our beard nets as part of our extra preparation of things. And that the idea was that we identified a table leader for each table, and you'll see the person there who is then responsible for instructing the group of 9 additional people that are going to help her do all the packaging for that particular table. We were fortunate we had 2 big rooms, and so we could do one meal in one room and the other meal in the other room, and that we had 5 tables. And so all of a sudden, when you start dividing things up, things worked out very nicely for being able to get things distributed and the whole process working along fairly quickly. So this is that same room, and there's everybody. At the far end of the room are the packages of bulk food, that there were about 3 people involved at that end, that don't count the groups of 10 at each of the 5 tables. And then there were a group of 3 or 4 or 5 people at the other end who were responsible for packaging or taping up the boxes and moving the boxes out of the way. So it is not a simple, oh, the 10 people take care of everything kind of process. And then there's still a need to have people just able to walk around and fill in, as some people needed to leave a little early, or just standing is not comfortable for them for very long. And so we be able to shift people in and out kind of thing. The result was that we had 150 people there on that Saturday to package those 5,000 bags of food in 2 hours. And Greg said we could do this, and I mean, it was almost like within the minute. I just couldn't believe it. The other part, though, is we had 150 people there. And there for a while, it was looking like it wasn't going to be that many. And are we going to have it come together? And, are we going to have to take 3 hours to do this or whatever? But there's a thing called dumb luck and all of that kind of thing that is part of a Rotary project. Definitely that. I have got, you can't see Tim Carter there, who's underneath all the pictures of our participants, but he was there. We had an Area 8 president's meeting before the event and everything. And then he just stayed to, this was part of his excitement of being his Rotary year and being involved with all of this. So it took about 12 of us to set up things on Friday afternoon for about an hour and a half, and then took about 10 of us to clean up for about 45 minutes. And we got very lucky in the fact that the bulk food that we did not package, and there's always going to be some left over, Ram House, or excuse me, I'll think of it in a little bit, was able to take the bags of food and be able to deal with it. There are an awful lot of places that it has to be sealed and everything else, but we were fortunate to find an organization that could take that bulk and be able to use it within their own program and add and supplement for the feeding that they were already doing.